Good afternoon, Year 5s, and welcome to your optional computer lesson. For those of you who have got the device in order to be able to log on to Scratch and you've been doing the program over the last couple of weeks, we're going to be continuing with our maze today. So our learning objective is to use a keyboard to input for sequencing, and we're going to be looking at things like testing and debugging our maze, to duplicate actions. Duplicate means to make more of and to copy, and use when key is pressed input. Okay, so we're giving instructions now to our sprite in order to move. Before we start, we're going to be looking at our just checking. So if you wouldn't mind getting a piece of paper and answering these 3 questions. So last week, what does the forever loop mean in sequencing? In last term, what is the PowerPoint usually used for? And last year, what are the key things we need to remember when we are trying to think of a password? Okay, so what are the safety measures? Right, so pause the video now and have a go at answering those. Okay, let's see how you did. Right, so forever loop simply means that it will continue to happen again and again, right? And a loop means that there's no end or start, it just goes on and on and on, it's continuous. PowerPoint is usually used for any sort of presentations. You can present your work, you can present ideas, you can put pictures, information, and that allows the viewer to be able to see things and be able to understand a concept that you're trying to show them. And password safety, it's very important that you do not share your password with anybody, that you keep it as a secret to yourself, okay? Otherwise, somebody else can log on as you and be able to fiddle around on your account. And it is also important that you think about a safe password. So in future, when you're given the opportunity to create your own password, it's important that you think of something that's not very easy. So don't put your name, for example. Okay, try and make it something a bit more complicated. Maybe use some numbers and some symbols, but don't make it too complicated that you are going to forget it. So that's just some ways that you can keep your password safe for future. Right, so our big question today is going to be, how does our sprite move through the maze? And we have been creating our maze in Scratch, and you have found a sprite, and today we're going to start making it move through the maze. Those of you who have a keyboard, you can log on to Dance Mat on BBC and you can do some 10 minutes of touch typing. However, those who don't have a keyboard, you can just continue and we can carry on with the Scratch game. So those of you who need to pause the video, you can and go and do your touch typing. Otherwise, I will carry on. So in our game so far, we have created our character and explored our sprite and chosen our sprite as our character, key character in our maze. We've created a background, which is the maze, and the theme or purpose of the game is to obviously get our sprite through that maze. We have created movement as well using our forever loop. So when there was an issue, we went back to the start, okay? And that is all creating sequences and instructions for the computer in order to know what to do. So I'm going to share my screen now with my Sprite game. You can now log on to your Sprite account if you have one and go to your saved projects. And we are now going to start looking at changing our maze so that it works, so our sprite can move easily through it. So what I needed to do is to first, you might have some information on the screen. Can you please take everything off so that you have a blank screen, and all you have to do is just drag it across. Right, so we're going to start, all right? And we need to start by following the events. Okay, so we're going to select the green flag, and this is going to tell us what we need to do. And I want my ballerina to always come back to this point here. And so I'm going to then find the tab that says go to X and Y. And that would mean that every time I click this green flag, my little ballerina is going to go back to this point. Okay. And now I want to try and sequence my ballerina to go through this maze and to get out of the other side. So I'm going to need a few things. So first one I'm going to need is, if you have a look on the blue tabs, you're going to need change X by 10 and change Y by 10. Okay. All right. And these are going to be telling our sprite to move in a certain direction. Remember, 10 spaces is not very big, but that doesn't matter today because we're not going to really need to make it move all the time because we're going to be able to use our buttons to move your character. What I would like you to do now is to duplicate these. So if you select right click, it will come up as duplicate and then create 4 Ys for me. Okay, so that you'll have, let's move it down. And I would like some X's as well. So I need 4 of them as well. And we just need to duplicate and duplicate. Okay. Oh, all going. Right, that's fine for now. That doesn't matter. Right, then I would like to start my sprite to move, but I need it to have some instructions. So I'm going to go to the events icon here, and I'm going to select this piece here, which says when space key pressed, okay? And I'm going to put it there. But now I don't want the space. I want to say when the up arrow is pressed, I am going to then move 10 spaces. Okay, so if I push my up arrow, my ballerina should just move up. I want it to go back to where it started, so I'm going to push this button. So I'm going to move these nice and neatly so I can clearly see. Okay, so if you have a look here, if I push my up arrow, my ballerina is going to move up off the page basically, and I'm going to push the green flag and she'll go back to where she started because those are the instructions that I've given her. Now I want her to move so that she is moving across, okay? So I need her to keep going, but now I have these walls in between. So what I need to do is to go to control, and I'm going to select this section here called if and then. Now, all that means is if my ballerina gets to a wall, she can't go through it, okay? So I'm going to select this here by showing that when it's a sensing, okay? So obviously my ballerina is going to sense that there is a wall, and so I need a color. So I'm going to take this and drag it, and there we go, pops it into the box, okay? Now, this then tells me that if she hits this color, let's just take her back to where she needs to be. If she hits this color, she then needs to stop, okay? So my ballerina is going to move and it needs to hit the black line. So this is not the color black. So if I select this and I go down to this little icon at the bottom, my maze will then pop up, right? And I need to, if you can see there, as you zoom over and it enlarges it, you can click on it and it comes to a color. Now I'm just going to push it all the way over so that it is black, okay? So I know when she touches the black lines, she has to stop. Then I'm going to say changes the Y, but I'm going to say she needs to go back. So she can't move. So I'm going to put a -10 there. Okay. Now, Y is when we move up and down. And when we look at coordinates, we look at the Y axes. And we've talked about this in our maths lessons before. So you can see now how maths is starting to correlate into computing. So those of you who want to become a programmer, you can see now how maths is quite important. Right, we want to copy this action now, okay? But instead of going up, I want to go down. So you can go back to the event, sorry, and you're going to select again. But now, instead of saying up arrow, you want the down arrow, and you're going to keep that. And then I wonder if we can just duplicate this whole thing. Oh, there we go. And I can just move that away. All right. So the same thing now is going to happen, except when I go down. And I'm going to now copy this again, but now I want the X axis. Now the X means going across. So I'm going to say when the right arrow is clicked, okay? And I'm going to then go to control, and let's see if I can actually just duplicate these. These will make it so much easier for me. And I want that to go there, but I don't want the Y, so I'm going to push it away. Okay. And again, I can just duplicate this whole thing. Computers becomes nice and easy, and I can actually just move that away. But instead of the right arrow, I want the left arrow. Right, so now I need to just check and debug any of my issues. So first of all, when I'm going down, I need to move this going downwards. Now, negative means I'm going to go further down. So I'm going to put a minus 10 here instead of a 10, and then a 10 here. Okay, because when we move, negative means we're moving down, and positive means we're moving up. Okay, so because we're going down, we want to move into the negative region. Right, this one I'm going to leave, except this one I want to change because I want it to stop. And this one, I want to see if I'm going to go to the left. So if I'm going to the right, that's all correct. And this one is going to be minus, and that's going to be positive. Right, now I'm going to check if this all works. So I'm going to go back to my green little flag and get them to work. Now I'm going to see if there's any issues. So as I need to go right, I'm going to push right, and there's going 10 spaces, and now it should, there we go. As you can see, as I'm pushing it, you can see that this is being highlighted because I'm using the right arrow, but my ballerina is not going through that wall, okay? Right, now I need to go down. Super, and now my ballerina cannot go through the wall because it is blocking it. Right, oh, now we have a bit of a problem because my ballerina is too big. So let's go and debug it. So I'm going to make my ballerina here even smaller so that I can make sure that she's going to get through this maze. She's teeny tiny now. So let's try this again. Right, all the way to the end, but I can't, even though I'm pushing the right-hand key, you can see it's highlighting it here. It's not going through the wall. Right, all the way down and not going through the wall, across, down, and she gets out. So hopefully you can have a fiddle with this now, and you can play around with that, and that will make sense. And that is quite exciting. And you can even make her go back to where she started, right, using the arrow keys now, which gives the instructions to your sprite what it needs to do. So hopefully you enjoyed your computer lesson. Next week, we're going to be adding some more detail to your maze. So this is not the finished product. See if you can get your sprite to move through the maze. And again, it's all about finding issues. And if there is an issue, you just need to debug it, okay? All right, so hopefully that works out for you and your maze is going to, your sprite is able to get to the end. So well done, guys. That's your computer lesson for today.